Hello and many thanks for joining us on the program People, Politics and Power. I am Imonia Marire. In 1993, the then General Babangida administration established the National Orientation Agency, otherwise known as NOA, by Decree 100 of that military regime. The agency was given two major tasks. One, to ensure that government programs and policies are better understood by the general public, and two, to mobilize favorable public opinion for such programs and policies. In the over 3 decades of the existence of the NOA, the mandate of the agency has somewhat expanded with every new administration to include raising awareness positively, changing attitudes, values, and behaviors, accurately and adequately inform and sufficiently mobilizing citizens to promote peace and harmony, and of course, developing a Nigerian society that is orderly, responsible, and disciplined, where citizens demonstrate core values of honesty, hard work, and patriotism. Now, quite a handful for one agency, you might say. But it all boils down to effective communication and imaging. On October 23, 2023, Mr. Lanre Issa-Onilu, a journalist of note and an integrated marketing communications consultant, assumed office as the Director General of the NOA. Mr. Issa-Onilu, who previously served as the National Publicity Secretary of the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, was or is therefore on a very familiar turf. Now, on the assumption of duty 4 months ago, he did say that he will pursue attitudinal and value reorientation of Nigerians towards achieving emotional attachment to their country, as well as enlightenment on fundamental changes taking place. Now, along this line, he promised to unveil what he called a relatable national value charter for Nigerians. As we say, it's been 4 months now. How hot has the seat been for him in the face of mounting economic, security, and social challenges that are tasking the patriotism and the loyalty and behavior of many Nigerians? How is he going about getting the people to do the right things and transforming Nigeria? Lanre Issa-Onilu, Director General, National Orientation Agency, NOA, is our guest on this edition of People, Politics, and Power. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Right.
My pleasure being here again.
It's great to have you on.
Yeah.
Right. So, 4 years on, how hot has the seat been for you?
4 months rather.
Yeah, 4 months.
Not 4 years now.
Yeah, 4 months.
Yeah, 4 months. Yeah, 4 months, and with the challenges you refer to, I've come to realize this justification for the job. So it is not a hot seat, rather. It is a seat that is justified. So my jobs are clear-cut for me, and I have every reason to believe that the trajectory that we are following is actually what is the right thing to do. So in the last 4 months, we are talking of an agency that has one of the biggest structures in this country, with 812 office locations nationwide, offices in all the 774 local government, and offices in all the 36 states and FCT, and then the headquarters, and with a huge starving population. And an agency for over the years. Actually, the agency came to be 87, 88 as MAMSA. So, as you said, 1993, it was transformed to NOA with that Decree 100. So, and over the years, the agency has done a lot, but people continue to ask the question, where is NOA? NOA is sleeping, and justifiably so, because this is a very huge and complex country. And I would also say, with that sense of responsibility and acknowledgement of the effort of the past leadership of the agency. But I would say that over the period of the last 3 decades, we may have been treating the symptoms. And that's what we are trying to do differently, to go right to the real issues. The easiest thing to do is to go on television and radio and begin to say, do the right thing, buy Nigeria, be patriotic, and then all sort of mantra and sloganeering. We've done that several times over the last 3 decades. What have we achieved? Yeah, because those are not actually the issues. The issue is that the Nigerian nation has not emerged. And the conditions for people to love Nigeria, to be emotionally attached, to be patriotic, have not been created. So those conditions must be in place. And every other thing will fall in naturally. And then you cannot begin to tell people to do all of that. But without creating those conditions, you see, patriotism is like love. There must be an attraction. So you must create that attraction. And it takes two to tango. It takes the country and it takes the citizens. And most of the past effort concentrated more on the citizens. Good people, good nation. Don't check out, Andrew. Change begins with me. You know, these are kind of linear way of seeing things. I think it's beyond just seeing it from the prism of what the citizens need to do. It also means what is that promise that this country has made to all of us that will now motivate us to want to say, I have to die for this country. That is what we are focused on.
So who creates the condition that you talk about?
Actually, it is the government of the day. And there can be a better time for that to happen when you have a president who, right from the beginning, has been speaking to the fact that we are all family members living in the same house, but in different rooms, and that there must be unity and stability. But these are not things that you can legislate upon. These are things that you have to motivate. So now the government that is in place has a responsibility to bring together, you know, those conditions. Any government or associations or groups or society must satisfy 3 basic things. And these are the conditions for that group to be united and stable. First, any association, such as we have in this country, is an association. It must satisfy the condition for our material needs. Our material needs include the infrastructure, the amenities, good quality education, health care. These are our material needs. Any society or group or association that cannot satisfy your material need would have issue. You're not going to be committed. Secondly, it must satisfy your moral need. You must have that moral justification to say, yes, this country is just. This country, there is equity. There is sense of belongingness for all of us. And there's participation, you know, for all of us. So that moral need must be satisfied. The last one, which is the most important, is the psychological need. You must be psychologically connected. And there are conditions that will motivate you to have this psychological connection. And without that, you cannot love somebody you are not psychologically connected to. It's the same way you cannot love a country you are disconnected from in terms of your psychology. So the job of NOA is to ensure there is psychological connection to the country. But the country must put together those conditions that will make Nigerians to be emotionally connected.
Now, after over 6 decades of Nigeria's independence, what do you think is the disconnect? Why have we not been able to create these conditions and these connections that you talk about?
Yeah, because we have not defined who we are. If you ask me today or anybody and say, who is a Nigerian? I will speak from my own perspective. You will speak from your own perspective. This country has not told us who a Nigerian is. So it is when we define ourselves and we create those values, national values, that bring us together, and we have that shared commitment to the values, and we all subscribe to the values, then we're going to emerge as a nation, no longer as a Yoruba man, or as an Igbo man, or Hausa man, or Efik, or Nope, or Chief, or Igala. We are going to emerge. So we must take the positive attributes of our subnational cultures and create a national culture out of it with our values enshrined in that. So it is when those values become national and we all have those shared values together, then we would now begin to give Nigerians orientation towards those value systems. Citizens from country to country are unique, and they are properly defined. An American is an American. It has its attributes, but these attributes are shared because the structures and the institutions are created for him right from when he's a child. He is nurtured, is indoctrinated as an American. So he grew up as an American. So if you're in America, their national values is ensconced under what they call the American dream. So they talk of pursuit of happiness, liberty, exceptionalism. So you have all of this as part of the American dream. And they create institutions that will nurture people, with these values. So when they have told you right from when you are small that you are an exceptional country, and because you are from that country, you are an exceptional citizen, and you are the best in the world, and then America first. And so if you grow up to become a film maker, a movie maker, and you're writing your script for a movie, of course, America must defeat Russia or Arab or even people from the space, because that's what you are told, because you are exceptional. It's been implanted in you. It's part of your system. So wherever you go with that sense of exceptionalism. Liberty becomes natural to you. Pursuit of happiness becomes part of your system. So country to country, that's what they have. I can go on and mention from country to country what distinguishes them. We must distinguish ourselves. We must let all of us understand what the attributes, what the components of being a Nigerian are. So we can properly say that somebody is not a Nigerian by the way he behaves, because he would not be representing those values. So now, creating the values is one thing. And in the last 4 months, we've had a series of committees that have worked on the Nigerian value system. And just about 4 weeks ago, the Minister of Orientation and National Orientation, Alhaji Mohammed Idris,
Information and National Orientation.
Information and National Orientation, received the final document, the blueprint on the National Values Charter. It's a charter because it's an agreement. It's an agreement between the country and the citizens. So each side has its own role in it. Unlike before, where we look towards the citizens alone and say, this is what you need to do. What about the people who have found themselves in positions of power and authority? They have a role to play. It takes two to tango in this case. That's why it is a charter. It is a social contract between the country and the citizens. Carefully, I mention country, not government. It's just like the Constitution. It's like the national anthem. It's like the national flag, all our national symbols. They came to be under different governments. But they do not belong to those governments. They belong to the country. So that's why they have survived government to government. Otherwise, every government will come and say, this is the new anthem. This is the new constitution. So it's the same way our values must go beyond the government in power. It's the document by the country with the citizens. So in 10 years, in 30 years, in 50 years, whoever finds himself in power know that those values are sacrosanct, and he must keep the values in place and continue to nurture those conditions that we have created to bring everybody up as proper Nigerian. So when we are all Nigerians, and we all understand what it is to be Nigerians, then we can begin to pick out a bandit, because a Nigerian cannot be a bandit. It can't be part of our value. A Yahoo person cannot be called a good Nigerian or a real Nigerian or true Nigerian, because Yahoo is not part of our values. Corruption cannot be. So all of these challenges we are facing are symptoms on the fact that we have not evolved as a nation and as a people with shared values. So this is the direction that we are going.
Yes, we'll come back to the values, the charter itself. But for now, let's look at, we have been told from when we were small that Nigeria is a very diverse country. Diverse in culture, in the language, in religion, in so many other areas. And that divergence is our strongest point as a country. Now, but the problem has always been weaving together that diversity and molding it into one acceptable and what you may describe as a relatable national value. Yeah, what went wrong? Is it our educational system? Is it the politics? Is it our socialization system? Or is it our family structures?
Yeah, I think you've listed 4 things. I will pick socialization process. What we are talking about creating the institutions to nurture ourselves, that's the process of socialization. But to socialize people, you must already agree on what form of socialization you want to do. Take all the words you can use to describe a people. If you say disciplined people, when you say disciplined people in Nigeria or in America or in France, it's different from saying a disciplined people in North Korea, for instance. What it takes to be a disciplined citizen in North Korea is not the same thing as what it takes to be a disciplined person in China or Russia. Discipline, all these words, patriotism is even defined, they are all in context. But in the Nigerian context, we must know what discipline means. We must know what patriotism means. The process of socialization has never been put in place. In some ways, we had them before, not properly defined. I will give you an example. We used to have civic education in school. Civic education was a process of socialization because right from school, they are telling you about ethics, about other manners and ways and behaviors that you need to have as a citizen. Civic education was never taken serious. In fact, at the time, it was yanked off our curriculum. That's one. Another institution of socialization was all those voluntary organizations like Boy Scouts, Girls Guide, Girls Brigade that we used to have in schools. They were institutions that were created to nurture people, create leaders from that age, model citizens from that age. They were taken off. So both parents and government created vacuum in the lives of our children. So the last 3 decades, we have left those children exposed to the kind of values that we don't have control over. So today, what they consume, what they are exposed to in terms of content, are not our own. Children aged 1 to 12 to 18 are committing substantial part of their daily lives to watching cartoons. Cartoons are 100% foreign values. Most of the values that are completely anti our own way of life. This is what we nurture our children on. So no wonder that you have population of our youth today who don't think Nigeria. We never told them what Nigeria is. They don't know it. They have not come across such content. They were never nurtured on it. So that's what they were exposed to. So their mannerism, their sense of understanding of what Nigeria is strange. It's different from you and I. It's because we create that vacuum and we didn't nurture them. So if a Yoruba boy of 12 years old feels closer to somebody in America, a country he has never been to, than somebody in Enugu, it's because he has never been exposed to what happens with the people. He doesn't know the people of Enugu. Maybe what he has told is all the stories that his parents believe about the Igbos, for instance, or about the Fulanis, for instance, or about the Hausa or Chief or Nope. It's not stories that because he's not exposed to those values. He doesn't know their ways of life. He doesn't see all the similarities and the kind of commitment all of us have, our forefathers have paid to have a country like this. They were never given such opportunity. What they know is Spider-Man and Iron Man and all those other characters that are alien to our system. So these institutions of socialization, we never actually took them serious. And when I discuss what the values charter contain and the components, And I will now mention some of the things. We have 7 items we have put in place to institutionalize these values. Thank you.
Because I was going to ask you part of that question. Because you seem to suggest, and maybe correctly so, that we have built a society over time without shared values and shared identity.
Absolutely.
Now, so if that is the case, that is the gap you intend to fill with this new charter, this new social contract. What would be the main elements of that charter?
Okay, so now the blueprint is ready. The president may announce anytime soon the implementation committee, and he has committed to April to unveil the charter. The charter has 2 components. The country's promise, which we call the Nigerian promise. You see, every society that you belong to must make a promise, including even the faith that we subscribe to. Christianity has made a promise to you that you will go to heaven, isn't it? That's the promise. Islam has made a promise to me. You know, if you're a Rotarian, Rotary Club will make a promise to you as a member. There are things that come to you in terms of benefits of being a member of that. And then it is now in exchange for that, that it is asking you for certain commitment, you know, in terms of whether practices, in terms of whether behavior or activities. So Nigeria must make a promise to the citizens that these are guaranteed for you for being Nigerians. So when a child is born, he is made to be aware of the country's promise, which has 7 pillars. So we have 7 pillars of the Nigerian promise that is guaranteed for every citizen. And anybody who is in any position of authority has a responsibility to fulfill the promise on behalf of the country. And those are the basis for us to measure that person's performance or otherwise. Those are primary. Building road, building hospital, doing every other thing comes after you have created a condition for people to love that country and to be emotionally connected. So the first component is the Nigerian promise with 7 pillars. So those are the 7 promises this country is making as its own part of the bargain, of the contract, the social contract, for people to subscribe to say, yes, I want to have these promises. So in exchange for this promise, the country now says, I need commitment from you. And we call it the citizen codes, if you like, code of conduct. And they also have 7 pillars. So the country is making 7 promises. And then the citizens are also giving back 7 commitments. So it's 7 for 7. The country gives us 7 and is asking for 7. No country in the world has reached the destination in terms of accomplishing all this, you know, their contract with the citizen. But they have created a journey. By saying there are 7 promises, you can begin the journey. Wherever you find yourself in position of authority, you are part of the movement towards keeping the promise. So we continue to work on that. And then the citizens also don't have to deliver on their commitment just in a day, but they also have embarked on a journey. And that's why orientation is a journey, it's not a destination. So once we have this in place, then we now begin to create processes to give ourselves orientation to embark on this journey towards a country, towards creating a country for ourselves where the charter is, you know, responsibly and reasonably implemented. You know, so that is what this is all about. So that's what the president will be unveiling in April. And so after the unveiling, we have 7 methods we have created to institutionalize this. Otherwise, you see, what many people expect of NOA is to see you on TV, on radio, jingles everywhere, buy Nigeria, be patriotic. How many of such have we had? What is the result? Those are, I mean, you cannot tell people, if you sing to my ear for 24 hours, be patriotic, but be patriotic, be patriotic. It won't sink in until you create the conditions for me to be patriotic. So if you now come to tell me later, now you need to be patriotic, of course, there's a basis for that. So it's that basis that we must establish. You know, so, and that's why you don't see NOA sloganeering, doing mantra. So after the unveiling, of course, all this will happen. But we must first establish the condition for this to happen.
That is a very fundamental issue. We will go on a short break, and when we return, we will be talking about having to fulfill the conditions for that social contract to become effective. Stay with us.
The Nigeria of our dream, the Nigeria we need, is the united, indissoluble, and cohesive Nigeria which guarantees equity, fairness, justice, and prosperity for its citizens. That is our focus on people, politics, and power. It is fresh, insightful, impactful. It's a must watch. People, politics, and power on AIT.
Thank you so much for staying with us. My guest is the Director General of the National Orientation Agency, NOA, Mr. Lanre Issa-Onilu. Now, you have talked very extensively about this social contract, this that is due for unveiling in April. Now, you are coming up with this at a time of very difficult economic, security, and social conditions in the country. And I'm afraid that if things do not improve very quickly, it just might be like putting water in a basket. Has it occurred to you?
Absolutely. We find ourselves where we are today also because we don't have commitment. The country has no promise to us, and the citizens also have no commitment to the country. What has happened is not a natural disaster. It's man-made. The economic situation, the insecurity, all of these maladies, the yahoo, talk of whatever, banditry, kidnapping, Boko Haram, IPOB, whatever you mention, they are all product of the fact that we don't have a country that has shared commitment to values. So we can say, leave the cause, let's focus on the symptoms. Of course, we must come back to those symptoms because it will be reoccurring as long as the cause remain untreated. So they must go together. As the government is working day and night to remediate the challenges that we have, we must also ensure that now we lay concrete foundation. And there's no better time. Because even in these other issues of economy and insecurity, what the current government is doing is not to run away for easy, quick fix method. It's to ensure and provide solid foundation such that in another 5-10 years, we won't come back to it. Many governments in the past have avoided the difficult decisions because there will be challenges, there will be pains. You know, it's like a woman who needs a child and now is pregnant and begin to blame the husband for the consequences of pregnancy. Of course, for 9 months, there will be consequences for pregnancy. But ultimately, after delivery, all those pains will be forgotten because the joy of a new child, would now, eliminate whatever pains that we have had. But we must be ready to go through the consequences of 9-month pregnancy to have a baby. So the government is doing that. But in doing it, you must also ensure that you now create the condition for those symptoms not to rear their heads again. We don't have people who are committed to this country, right from people in government to the ordinary citizens. That's what has created all these challenges. And they're all interconnected. You can't talk of the economic challenges without talking of insecurity. Because if people cannot go to farms, how can you have food? Security. If people are not patriotic, the inflation, the galloping inflation that we have had over the last 3 months are propelled by lack of patriotism rather than for economic reasons. There have been 2 factors pushing the prices. One is what they call the matching price and then replacement cost. Replacement cost means I've gone to the market as a rice seller and I've bought 100 bags of rice at 40,000 naira each. So I want to put 5,000 naira on each bag. But I imagine that in another 3 months, if I want to go and replace those 100 bags, it may have gone to 50,000. So which I will have to sell at 55,000. So I'm now selling at the price I will use to replace the current goods. So I now sell this one at 55,000 instead of 45,000. So when I go to the market and I buy at 50,000, my next purchase, I also imagine that by the time I return it will be 60,000. So let me sell it at 65,000. So I'm using replacement cost to sell the current goods. That's lack of patriotism. It is what you have that you take to market to buy, and what you have that you should sell. So if you bought at 40,000, of course, it should be 45,000.
So isn't that why some people have been advocating for price control boards?
Yeah, you say price control board, is regulation or regulatory measures come in when you lose faith in people to by themselves be committed to a society. Because most of the things that we chase ourselves about are things that should come naturally to us. We all hold ourselves a duty of care. And that actually is the first of the 7 commitments of the citizens when it is unveiled. Duty of care. You hold your fellow citizen a duty of care. And that duty of care means if you're a trader, you are not just interested in the income you're going to have, you're also interested in the well-being of your fellow citizen. So, policeman, a doctor, an engineer, everybody, we hold ourselves duty of care. That duty of care means if you see somebody on the 3rd mainland bridge attempting to commit suicide by jumping into the ocean, you don't pick your phone and record it. You do your best to ensure it doesn't do it. So we hold ourselves duty of care, but you cannot have such in place in a country where people are not committed. So that is why it is fundamental that we must get commitment from the citizens, and we must ensure that the government make promises and be on the journey to keep those promises.
You will agree with me that over the years there has been a huge deficit gap, a trust deficit gap between the government and the governed. And it appears to be increasing or growing by the day.
Actually.
How do you intend to bridge that gap? How do you intend to bring government and the people to such a level where the ordinary Nigerian would trust whatever comes out of the mouths of government officials or government policies and programs, and government in return will expect the average citizen to be committed to ensuring that we have one national value and one national identity?
Yeah, you see, when you talk of patriotism, commitment, they come with responsibility. In a situation where, or society where people don't take responsibility, there cannot be trust. If a father is not taking responsibility, he cannot get the trust of his children. That's why the condition for the children to be good children in the family must be created. If a family does not create the conditions for the children to be good children, they will not be. And once the parents have done their own part, they can also look at the children and say, this is what is expected of you. So the trust gap or deficit was actually created because the two sides to the bargain, the country and the citizens, continue to
drift apart.
Nothing is holding them together. Nothing there to even actually measure who is doing what and who is not doing what. It has not been defined. So we must define it. Like I said, it is the easiest thing for me to do as the DG of NOA is to go on TV, on radio, produce several jingles and begin to play it, and they say Nigeria don't sell at a high price, keep your environment clean, hygiene, don't do open defecation, all such issues. Buy Nigeria, promote Nigerian goods. what would be the basis for people to listen to that? There was no basis in the past because all those things were done in the past. And we are still talking about them now. If they were effective, we'll be discussing other issues now. So, see, until you do the fundamentals, you cannot build superstructure.
Definitely. Now, which of course takes me to the challenges that the NOA as an agency has faced over the last 3 decades, and what more challenges it is likely to face with this charter that you are going to roll out in April. Obviously, you are going to have a more elevated process of having to convince Nigerians about what is contained in the pillars, the different pillars of that charter.
Yeah.
You have had challenges of poor resourcing. You have had challenges of, say, low literacy level in terms of communication with our very diverse and divergent country. You have had challenges with the socio-economic factors and all of that. So how do you go about redressing these challenges and ensuring that this charter will not only resonate with the people, but will actually sink into their consciousness?
Yeah.
Both those in government and the ordinary Nigerians like us.
Yeah, very good question. See, the good thing for us is the enormosity of the infrastructure that NOA has, done as the last gate man to the community. Now, what are we doing? The first thing is we are ensuring that the people we call COMOs, those are our local government staff, community orientation and mobilization officers, you have to come from that local government to be a COMO in that local government. So you speak their language. You grew up there. You are their son or daughter. So when you speak to them, you're able to speak to them in a way that they will honor, because they are one of them. You are their son or daughter. So we are moving people around in terms of personnel to ensure that you don't put, see, communication is half done if I can relate with you, if I feel secure with you. So if you bring a Yoruba man to a local government in Enugu, and you say he's the one to relate with the traditional institution, with the religious leaders, with the youth, with the women, he cannot even speak their language. He does not even know anybody. He has no friend, he has no relation, he has nobody in that place. And he wants to mobilize them for Nigeria. How? So, first and foremost, we need to ensure that our personnel are fit for purpose in terms of who is where and what can they do. So, in terms of capacity also, we are also working on ensuring that. Today, we have identified 570 different languages, or dialects, if you like, in this country. And today, NOA can speak 163 of those 570. How are we going to take advantage of this 163 languages that we can speak? Nigerian languages that we can speak in NOA. So, in the last couple of weeks, most of our products, whether on social media, you will see them. When we bring up an issue, you have the EBBO version, you have the EFIC version of it, you have the TIF, you have the BOSO, you have all kinds of languages that we create. Whether it is small jingle, whether it is an infographics, we render them in all these different languages and ensure that they go to the corner of the country where it is relevant. This is part of the way to ensure that there are no communication brick walls. And we're able to get to the people and break things down for them to understand what the government is doing and what NOA is trying to do. So this is part of what we are doing. You mentioned the issue of resources. It's a huge challenge. But also for me, it's not a challenge. You know why? Nobody, even a parent, if you have 5 children and one knows how to manage resources and is producing results, you will allocate more money to that person, to that child. It's the same for a country. There's competition for resources. So each agency, each ministry, each government institution must put value on the table for the country to put money on it. So what value is NOA putting on the table? That's why we are concentrating on what we want to do. So when we put our values on this table, and the president, who was already committed to orientation of the people of this country, it is for no reason, or it's not just by accident, that you have Ministry of Information and National Orientation, and you have culture and tourism taken away from that. It is a deliberate thing, because the country, the government, and the president particularly understand that we cannot achieve anything with this kind of attitudes that we all have for our country, both the leaders and the led. So resources will come, because there are things to spend money on, and there will be values to derive from that. So it's the list of my worries. So, but the important thing is, are we prepared for it? That's why we are creating structures in NOA. In the last 4 months, we've done a lot. We have our TV studio now ready within the last 4 months. We have our radio studio ready within the last 4 months. As I sit down here today, I can tell you who is the chairman and secretary of, for instance, yam seller in Sungeru. Every part of the country, or yam seller, or meat seller, or butcher, or tailor, or hairdresser, the ESCO members, we have huge database that we have built. So we'll be able to relate direct to these people. So imagine in a situation where we can talk to the executive members of all these trade and artisanal associations all across the country, and then they are able to pass this on to their members every Sunday or fortnightly when they meet, and get the information across to them. How the hell do we want to mobilize Nigerians if we don't know them? So we have these huge resources as at today that we have built. We are launching this week a mobile app that we call Mobilizer. The mobile app is dedicated to the youth. For effect, we need to understand that we are in a country that is very youthful. Why? 72% of our population is 35 years and below. That's huge. About 160 to 170 million Nigerians are below the age of 35. So anybody that is above 35 today, to the oldest person in this country, we all constitute just 28%. So you must have policy that focus on this huge youthful population. And this is a population that has never been told what it is like to be a Nigerian. What does it mean to be a Nigerian? So now, the mobile app has several features that will bring this youth into play and make them to be part of government, part of the society, and have very important and good reasons to feel proud as Nigerians. So this is part of the platform we have created to be able to reach out to all the stakeholders, all the segments of the society, and we have been very methodical about it, because we are creating situations that are measurable, that in 6 months, in 9 months, in 1 year, we can follow the chart. And this is where we started from, and this is how far we have gone. And we are also relating with all the MDAs, because by our mandate, NOA is the communication arm for all the government institutions. For instance, take INEC. INEC's job is to conduct election. The job of NOA is voter education. Take NAFDAC, is to regulate drugs and foods. NOA is to tell people how not to adulterate, why not to do that, why not to fake drug and things like that. So we are the communication arm of all government institutions. So we are bringing them on board. We had a retreat on December 12th where we invited people from all the MDAs to share with them our new direction, our agenda, which we call CLEAN. You know, CLEAN is spelled C-L-H-E-E-A-N. It's an acronym that brings together all our activities. The letter C stands for crime. All issues that have to do with criminality is under that. And then so when you come to NOA, you can relate with people who are involved in issues that have to do with criminality. So, and then with the police, the DSS, the military, any institution that has something to do with criminality also know where to plug in to NOA. The L stands for lawlessness. All issues of lawlessness, also including police, the NDLA, I mean rather the FRC, Road Safety Corps, all issues that have to do with lawlessness, they know where to relate with us, including international partners who are also handling different aspects of this. They know where to. H stands for health-related issues. All issues of health come under that. The first letter E stands for education. All issues that have to do with educating Nigerians come under that. The second letter E stands for environment. All issues that have to do with environment, the climate, the issues around that are under the second letter E. Then A, abuse. All forms of abuse comes under that letter A. And then the final one is N, and that is issue of narcotics, drugs, and other issues. So we have compartmentalized all these issues under what we call clean, because our role actually is to clean the society of all these maladies.
No, I do not envy you your responsibility as DJ of NOA. But I'm sure that in the last 4 months, or at least the last 3 months, you must have heard over and over again Nigerians from different perspectives talking about hunger in the land. And as much as I do that, people will prioritize their immediate needs over and above long-term behavioral changes. That is my concern for you. How you going to, you did not, and maybe this administration did not create the conditions that have brought about the hunger that Nigerians talk about. But we are now saddled with having to reorientate Nigerians, say a new value system to them, say a new behavioral pattern to them, to people who are hungry.
Yeah. See, the people who are hungry, part of our job is to make them understand why hunger also is there. And more importantly, what is government doing to ensure immediately there is succor? Because we also have the mandate to communicate government policies. So, and I mentioned the issue of the TV studio and the radio, is to be able to create the condition for ourselves, the platform for ourselves, to be able to engage with Nigerians, for them to be able to see what government is doing and show more understanding and be sure that the current situation, in some cases, is actually necessary for tomorrow to be better. Otherwise, we'll continue to prolong this pain, and eventually it will be worse than it is. The illustration is people living in a building, and you've had a series of caretakers who continue to manage the building even with all the defects. And the people inside understand that the building may eventually collapse on them. But nobody has done anything. The people were afraid of serious decision making. They don't want to take risk. They don't want to look bad because of the tenant. So you now have a caretaker who says, come on, we need to move out of this building. We need to bring the building down. We need to lay solid foundation and come up with a building that when we move back inside, we will all be able to sleep with our 2 eyes shut. But pending the time the building will be ready, people will be exposed to rain and the sun. And people will complain, I'm being beaten by rain, I'm being beaten by sun. But when they remember the reason why that rain and sun are beating them, then they will be able to show understanding that it is for our own good. We just need to show understanding, exercise patience, and give support to government to be able to complete this building quickly so that we can move in and enjoy ourselves.
Okay, DG, our time is almost up. But I must ask you this last question before we go, which is the whole issue of the Japa syndrome. Young Nigerians are voting with their feet. The young professionals, the most active elements in the Nigerian population are taking off. They are voting with their feet. They are going away from the country. What do you think is the solution to that?
Well, I don't want to see Japa strictly as a problem. it falls under what they call economic right. Individual is free to pursue his economic right. There are Americans in Nigeria today who are pursuing their economic rights because they believe they will get better results here. There are people from other countries that our people in Nigerians are going to, also who are returning to Nigeria or coming into Nigeria. If you go to the immigration today, you may be shocked at how many applications they have for people who are coming to Nigeria because they believe their economic rights will be better protected here. There is nothing wrong with anybody who believes his economic rights will be better protected anywhere in the world to go for it. It is a right. What should not happen is for Nigeria to get to that situation where this country becomes so terrible that it is unsafe for us to remain here. We are not there. This is not Yemen. This is not Gaza. This is not Ukraine. We should not exaggerate what is going on. We must be sure that people are educated that where they are going and the reason where they are going are justifiable.
Okay. DG, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Right, we've been talking with the Director General of the National Orientation Agency, Mr. Lanre Issa-Onilu. He's been our guest on People, Politics, and Power. We look forward to speaking with you again after the launch of that charter, that new social contract between the government and the governed.
The country.
Exactly.
And the government.
And the people. Great.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much for being part of our program today. We'll bring you a fresh edition of People, Politics, and Power.